So good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, we will be discussing the components and structure of cash flow statement. Now, it is important for you to be able to learn the different components and structure of a cash flow, as this will be the main focus of your first periodical examination. Now, let's try to elaborate on the different activities that fall under the different components of the cash flow statement. Okay, cash flow refers to the movement of actual cash into and out of the business in a given period as shown in a cash flow statement. Now, there are two directions or movements that involves cash flow. Okay, the first one is the inflow, and then the second one is the outflow. First, we say inflow if the business is the one receiving cash. Ibig sabihin, pumasok yung cash sa business. In this case, there will be an increase in the cash being held by the business. The other one, which is the outflow, simply means that the business is the one releasing cash. Ibig sabihin, ang business ang nagpagawas og kwarta. So in this case, the cash being held by the business is decreased. Okay? Now, there are different purposes of a cash flow statement. This applies to at least two parties. Okay? These are the investors and the business owners. For the investors, the cash flow statement is a deciding factor in investing or financing. It provides insight into a company's creditworthiness and overall financial health. Ibig sabihin, everyone, that investors will look at your cash flow statement to see if the business you have is worthy of being financed or invested. This also applies to our daily life, tama? If konti lang ang cash na hawak natin, 'di ba? It makes it hard for us to be able to do different activities we have to do. Okay? If limited ang cash natin. That goes the same for businesses. If investors see that you have shortage in cash, then they will assume na the business will not be able to operate effectively because there is a limit or shortage in cash. For the business owners, the cash flow statement helps in forecasting business needs. Ibig sabihin, when you try to look at your cash flow statement, you will be able to come up with decisions that will involve the business in the future. The cash flow statement also guides in budgeting efforts. Okay? For example, it is inevitable in a business na you will really have to purchase some things for the business operation. Okay? If you see in your cash flow statement that you are short of cash, do you think it's a good idea to purchase something major? I guess not. So that is one of the use of the cash flow statement for the business owner. Also, I have a question. Do you think that, or when do you think is the right time for you to take a bank loan? Is it during the time when you have enough cash in your business? Or is it during the time when you have a shortage in cash? So basically, for banks and other lending institutions, they lend money to business owners who have enough cash with them. Ibig sabihin, lending institutions will not lend you or will not grant you a bank loan if in your cash flow statement they will be able to see a shortage of cash. Kasi the availability of your cash will tell the lending institutions of your capability to pay. So dili man dyan na sila magpautang if they know that you do not have the capacity to pay. Okay, so that's for the purpose of cash flow statement. Okay, now we have here the three components of a cash flow statement. Okay, the operating activities, the investing activities, and the financing activities. Let's try to tackle each. Okay, here is an example of a cash flow statement. So you have here in this part the heading, the name of the business, the name of the financial statement, which is a cash flow statement, and the period covered. Okay. For the period covered, you may not follow this format. You may use for period ended, for year ended, for month ended, for quarter ended, and then the date of when the quarter or the period ended. Okay, so you're going to plot first. You're going to list first the cash flow from operating activities, and then get the net cash from the operating activities. Next will be the cash flow from investing activities. And then the same, we're going to get the net cash from the investing activities. And then cash flow from financing activities and the net cash from the financing activities as well. And then the last part would be the indication of the net increase or decrease in cash, the cash at beginning of period, which is usually already provided for the problems being given to you, and the cash at end of the period, which is either a sum or difference of the net increase or decrease and the cash at the beginning of period. So you have to note here, these figures that are enclosed indicate that they are outflows. So since they are outflows, negative dapat yan sila. Kaya sila naka-enclose. It means na nag-decrease ang cash. For inflows as is. Okay? Okay, operating activities. Activities that run the day-to-day operations of a business. This is the most critical component of a cash flow statement, and this is referring to the cash arising out of the core business the company is in. Okay, so operating activities. This mainly involves sales, revenue, income, expenses. Okay, those are usually the things that will fall under operating activities. If you are buying inventories, then that will fall under operating activities. If you are buying office supplies, then still it's under operating activities. If you are paying for the rent of the store you are in, then that falls under operating activities since it's an expense. Payment for the salaries of your employees falls under operating activities since it's also an expense. What else? Payment of advertisements, still under operating activities. Okay, so it is indicated here that these are the cash daw arising out of the core business the company is in. However, a business may be able to generate income apart from the main service or product or of the business. Diba, in some of your financial statements, you will indicate there other income. Okay, so what are other forms ba of other income? Okay, so like I have said, businesses could invest in other businesses. Okay, so that alone will fall under other income. Okay, the investment you put out or the investment you paid for to another business, okay, will be an outflow under operating activities. And when that investment is able to earn, and that business will be giving back to you the profit as part of your investment, then that will fall under other income as an inflow. Okay? Pag nibayad mo dadto, nag-invest ko kay Madam Menchi. Nag-invest ko sa iyang negosyo. Okay? Ibig sabihin, the payment for that is an outflow under operating activities because my purpose is to gain income. Okay? Now, if si Madam Menchi, ibalik na po niya ang aking profit sa akin, then the proceeds from that investment will fall under other income sa aking cash flow statement as an inflow. Understood? Okay. Yan ha. Under operating activities, there would still be activities that involves dividends. Okay. So we have here a part of the cash flow statement under operating activities. Okay, cash received from customers is an inflow. Ibig sabihin, nagbayad si customer og cash, nakadawat ka ng that much cash. Cash paid to suppliers. So, ibig sabihin, this is referring to the supplies. So, since you're the one who paid, it is an outflow. Employee compensations. Okay, this refers to the salaries. It is an outflow still. Other operating expenses paid, okay, still an outflow since it's an expense. Okay, so when you try to sum it up, that is the total. Next, investing activities. Okay, you shouldn't be very confused when it comes to investing activities because these investing activities will only involve non-current assets. You know very well what non-current assets are. Okay, this could be property, equipment, plant, and also intellectual properties such as copyrights, trademarks, patents. Those are non-current assets, okay? If it involves the purchase or sale of any of those, then that will fall under investing activities. Purchase, ibig sabihin, ang business ang nipalit. Sale, ibig sabihin, ang business ang nagbaligya. Okay? So, basically, purchase of property, equipment, and plants is going to be an outflow since the business is going to give out money in order for them to be able to acquire a non-current asset. And on the other hand, sale of property, equipment, plant, intellectual properties is going to be an inflow. Okay, that's quite clear. It's going to involve only non-current assets. Okay, we have here the part of the cash flow statement for investing activities. Sale of land. Okay, so kamo man ang nagdawat, ang business man ang nagdawat, kay nahalin ang yuta niya. So, nasa 390,000 pesos. That is an inflow. Okay, purchase of equipment. For example, si business, palit siya og computer to be able to use for the operation. So, by buying that computer, you're going to pay for it in cash. Okay, so that is an outflow. Net cash from investing activities. Okay, so that is the total. Okay, the last one is financing activities. Okay. Related to money in and out to investors and shareholders, okay? Investors could be, and shareholders could be owners. Tama? Okay. They're as good as owners of the business. Bonds or stocks are considered cash in. Ibig sabihin, some person is going to buy bond or stocks sa iyo in order for you to be able to finance the business. Dividends and interest are considered cash out, okay? If they buy bonds or stocks, you're going to give them dividends or interest in return, okay? What's the difference between bonds and stocks? Okay, previously in your org and management, there are different forms of business organizations, right? Sole proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. Usually, to be part of a corporation, you have to buy stocks. Tama? Okay. So, ibig sabihin, si stockholder paid for this amount of stocks. So, cash in for the business. Tama? And then, if the business is able to gain profit, you're going to return to the investor, to the stockholder, his or her part of the profit by giving out dividends. Dividends ang tawag ana sa iyahang bahin sa profit sa isa ka corporation. Okay? That's dividends. So since the business gave out dividends, then it's going to be an outflow. Okay? Now, what are bonds? Okay. Sa stocks, di ba, if you buy stocks, that would mean that you are partly an owner of the business. The bonds, on the other hand, you're just going to put out money for that business, but then you're not really part of the ownership of the business. So, muhatag lang kag kwarta, sila na bahala on saan nila pagpalago sa imong kwarta, wala kay say. Compared to being a stockholder na pwede pa ka maka-decide as to where the direction of the business is going to be. Bonds are different. Hatag lang kag bonds, hatag kag kwarta, that's what you call bonds. And then it's up to the business kung saan nilang kwarta pagpalago. And then when you buy bonds, okay, for the business, the point of view of the business, if someone buys bonds sa inyo, so basically there is cash in sa business, tama? Okay, and then when the business gains and earns profits, the one that you're going to return sa investor na nagpalit og bonds is the interest. Okay, so that's what you give out to the ones who bought bonds sa inyong business. So same. Not really the same. Kasi under sa operating activities, kayo ang nagbili ng bonds or stocks sa ibang business. And then the other business is the one giving out to you your dividend or interest. Here in financing activities, other person is going to buy bonds or stocks from the business, and then the business is the one who's going to give out the dividends. Okay? Again, sa operating activities, ang business mismo ang nagapalit sa bonds or stocks. Sa financing activities, ang business ang nagabaligya og bonds or stocks. In the same way that in the operating activities, the business is the one gaining dividends. And under financing, the business is the one giving out dividends. Please replay this many times so that you may be able to see the difference. Okay? Next, okay, so this is the part of the financing activities in a cash flow statement. Common share or dividends. Since we're talking about financing activities, common share dividends is an outflow. Payment on long-term debt is also an outflow. So also sa financing activities, everyone, long-term na mga loans will be under financing activities. If sinabi na payment for loan principal, ibig sabihin yung main amount na giutang. Okay. If sinabing payment ng ganyan, ng pinaka-amount na inutang nyo sa bank, then that is going to fall as an outflow in the financing activities. But if it says na payment of interest, okay, everyone, Usually, an interest is paid out monthly. So it's short term, okay? And it is an expense, okay? So since it is so interest or expense, it's going to fall under operating activities, okay? Pag sinabing interest lang from loans ang bayaran or gibayaran, then that will be under operating activities. But if sinabi payment of long-term debt or payment of bank loan, then it's going to fall under financing activities. Okay, so here's the example of the cash flow statement again. Make sure to enclose all the outflows. And please indicate if it is either a net increase or a net decrease. In this case, it is a net increase. Kaya wala man siya nag-negative dire. So you could just write net increase in cash. Pwede na na-disregard ang decrease. Okay? And cash at beginning of period is usually given. And then you have to sum it up or find out the difference in order for you to get the cash at the end of the period. Okay. Net increase or decrease in cash is now determined by summing up the net cash from three components, just like the one I told you earlier. Okay, so your examination will be a 50-item examination. It's going to be 50 items for the first periodical exam. So the first, it's going to be divided into two parts. The first part will be classifying activities according to its component in the cash flow statement. So please follow instructions, the one that I gave in your test papers. And then the second part will be the preparation of the cash flow statements. So you will be preparing two cash flow statements. Okay, so if you ever have any questions, please feel free to raise them in the comment section of this video. Okay, and I wish you good luck for your first periodical examination.